Right. Are you ready?
Yes. Okay, thank you for coming. And my name is Makoto. I live in London. And last year I gave a talk at RubyKaigi. Title was Building Real-Time Web, where I talked about WebSocket and one of the service we built called Pusher. I'm a developer at a company called New Bamboo, and I'd like to thank New Bamboo for sponsoring me to come all the way to Japan, not to talk about their service, but to talk about other stuff I've been doing recently. I'm in charge of international communication at Shinsai Info. Shinsai Info is a crisis mapping site I'm going to explain today. And are there anyone who was in the previous talk? No one? The Andrews talk? Okay, I had to apologize because I did one translation, but a flip-flop, oh sorry, the Japanese, that I made some huge mistake on the translation, but that was to Japanese, so if Japanese people who listen to his talk, I apologize. But at the Shinsai Info, I don't really code, but I do something similar, basically just translating site from English to Japanese, Japanese to English. Today I was supposed to present with Hal Seki. He's the managing director of Shinsai.info. He's a geo developer, and he's been an active member of many organizations, OpenStreetMap Foundation Japan, CEO of Geo Republic Japan, Cyrus Technologies. Unfortunately, his family got sick over the weekend, and while he was taking care of his family, he got cold as well. So unfortunately, he cannot join. But while we are compiling this slide, I got lots of input, and some of the material is from the slide he made earlier. So I'd like to say a special thank you to Hal. Today, I'm going to talk about 4 things. First, what happened after the earthquake? Just a quick question, how many people visiting from overseas for RubyKaigi? Okay, and are there any non-Japanese people living in Japan? Anyone? Okay. I'm going, and also all the Japanese people, for some of you, most of you, probably you were in Japan when earthquake hit, while I wasn't, so probably some information you might already know, but I'll talk through so that other people who's visiting Japan also understand what happened. And I'll explain what Shinsai Info did during the earthquake, right after the earthquake and even now. And the third, I'll talk about, so it's been 4 months since the earthquake in March 11th, and how Japan's doing, and also our activity is. And lastly, we'll talk about what we can do. Okay, so basic fact, so 15,000 people were killed after the earthquake, and there's still 5,000 people missing. And probably you've seen so many photos and videos, YouTube and the news site, this kind of stuff all over the place. And probably most of you who was there knows infrastructure was severely disrupted, road was completely disrupted, so any rescue mission, they had a hard time getting to the site, and the electricity and cell phone network were also washed away. And even in Tokyo, I heard that after 24 hours after the earthquake was hit, it was very difficult to get the reception. However, at the same time, again, I heard that internet itself worked fine in this area, not the area, the earthquake hit itself, but most of the place it worked fine. And what I noticed was the 3 symptoms. One is data explosion. Second is data curation, and the third is what I call a created system, and I'll explain through. So this is a graph of the number of tweets in March, and the spike you can see is the day earthquake hit. Apparently, normal day, average tweets per day is about 18 million, but the day of the earthquake, it jumped to 33 million, which is close to double. So when this kind of information overload happened, how people try to pass the right message to the right person, there are several approaches taken. One thing first noticed was like hashtag bombing. Like people started just hashtagging of the category they want to pass the information to. Lots of number, like 311 is the date. So when the date changes, they start hashtagging with 312 and stuff. So like people can follow the information they needed. And another thing is, if you know like where to ask help to do to take some action. If another way to spreading the most important words is the effort for something called kakusan, which is like spreading words to tweets with mentioning with someone who has very big social influence. Like in this example, this Takapon has like 500,000 followers. So some random people just mentioning to him to ask for spreading the word. And another way is, yes, if you know someone who has big influence to actually make action, people was like mentioning that person directly. And in this example, this Ambassador Wu is actually the ambassador of the United States. So like some people said, like, oh, this place, some people left alone asking for rescue, and people just like pinpointed to him directly. So just by looking at this, looks like social media itself has a way to self-organize itself, but not quite. This is one example I noticed, one of the tweets which had a link to this. And it was the speech, apparently, Barack Obama made right before they sent a troop to Japan. And it says, it's called Operation Tomodachi. It says, good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world, and you'll be launching the largest rescue in the history of mankind. Like when I first saw this one, like I was moved, like wow, like you know, America is going to help me, and such a moving speech. But it's only for 10 seconds because it's actually not what Barack Obama did. It was just like a parody from the movie like Independence Day. So it's not, but I trusted. Sorry, silly boy. Yeah, but it's kind of during the emergency period, like you start losing the doubt in using your common sense, especially when like half of the information is correct and half of the information is wrong. Then you start easily like believing stuff. And there's so the first example was just a joke. That was like harmless joke, but some joke related to some racism, which is not that actually good. And also the confused, and the previous example is a perfect example of the partially correct information. Another thing is like if government or some organization made an announcement, even though after they corrected the information, the tweet itself went forward. And then one thing happened is like, I think still, earthquake, this time is a time when like many people who's never used Twitter jumped in and start tweeting. And one of the things some people didn't use was not using official retweet function, but use just like RT to like manually retweet. In that case, even if you want to delete the original, you won't be able to do. So that was a cause of the confusion. So as a next step, you need some like system to manage that kind of social media activity. First like attempt was by Google. It's called Google Person Finder, which was launched 2 hours after the earthquake happened. It has very, very simple interface. And the one is to post like I'm looking for this person, my friends, my relatives, and the other people could just offer the information, partial information, or like direct information. And just having website alone was not good enough, and because during the disaster hit area, there are so many people who either have no direct access to internet or they just don't know how to use it. So this is one example, like at the evacuation center, people put the name list in each evacuation center, but it was all in analog. So someone took a photo, put it into Picasa, and there is some sort of like crowdsourcing attempt to just manually read and put the information into the system. And also one thing I did was when someone just tweeting says, hey, I'm looking for this person, I tend to reply to the person saying, hey, why don't you put the information? Well, first I looked into the person finder and tried to search the information. If I don't find it, I reply him back saying, why don't you use this system? So that was one attempt. And second attempt is our site, Shinsai Info. It's, as I said earlier, it's crisis mapping site. It has like certain categories. If you press a category, you can focus on the certain area it happened. So you can see that the area an earthquake hit has the biggest number of reports. So the more number of reports it's posted, it's bigger. And one of the example, it's simple kind of content management site that like people says, hey, we need help. We are stuck in isolation at Akasaka Hospital and we need some help. And someone back said, like, I made a phone call to self-defense organization, so rescue will come. The Shinsai.info itself didn't take any action, but like we just acted as a, hub of the information. And the list of kind of feature of our site is it's geotag report using OpenStreetMap. And the information came not only from the website's phone, but majority came from Twitter. We had like one Twitter, we listened to one Twitter streaming by hashtag, and for like 3 or 4 hashtags, and we put the information directly put into our system, which solves the problem is like when your site is not popular, you don't have enough information, therefore no one uses. We solved by taking the information directly from Twitter. And then one of the biggest difference of just using social media versus using our site is like it's fully monitored and geotagged and moderated by volunteers. By monitoring is like, just doing quick like a Google research to see where that information comes from the tweets. Just doing a bit of research will help a lot to prevent like spreading the false information across. And also geotag. Probably you know that like Twitter has a geotagging capability, but in general, people don't use much. I had a contact with someone from UCLA who did detailed analysis of Twitter with geotags, and he corrected, I think, about like 6,000 tweets or something, and it's only 0.4% who actually had a Twitter geotag capability. So we, probably at the busiest time, we had more than 100 moderators who actually saw the content, do a bit of background check, and then also put the geotag into the map. And yes, it's launched within 4 hours, which is probably second after Google Person Finder. But how was it possible, to have all that system? We have an answer because we use a system called Ushahidi. Ushahidi is in Swahili, meaning witness. Ushahidi was built in 2008 in Kenya after the post-election violence to monitor the activity, so like external organization can intervene. And so that was the original intention, but after that people start using other purposes. Other example is like Haiti in 2010. It was heavily used, and at that time in their side they had like a SMS integration, so like if they put like certain numbers, they was fed directly to their side. And also a more recent example is the Libya crisis map, where like in Libya, I think UN bombed and all that stuff, and or like where people killed, that kind of information, it was mapped. And rather unique example is London tube strike. Yes, in Japan you don't realize how, public transportation is reliable. In Europe, especially UK, there's tube strike very frequently. And this is one of the attempt, what I had is from the BBC stuff, to put the map. And one thing this is unique is The previous 2 instances, it was locally deployed, it was deployed for each crisis, whereas this one it has a URL of cloudmap.com. This is like a cloud hosting site, so you can just have it without having your own instance. So that's good. So far, I think that's good. But in RubyKaigi situation, I had a problem because it's like PHP, and like now I can see your face like why? But PHP is not that issue, because the more point is many Rubyists are actually involved with this Shinsai info. You might notice some avatar. Are there anyone from Shinsai info? I know. One raise hands. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So yeah. Wave hands. Show some support to me. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, many people join Shinsai info. Not all of them are like expert in PHP, but they wanted to do something to help. And this is a line, actually, how Seki-san was going to explain, but this is more like his thought. I was involved like 3 weeks after the site was actually launched, so I wasn't involved. But he's the one from day one who was setting up the site. And at that time, he knew he has a big problem, but none of them are like, crisis management expert or anything. So you have to run, and at the same time, you have to think, plan, make a task, and create workflow. You have to do all at once. This kind of relates to how usually open source is managed. And like in open source, when project is first launched, no one really tells you what to do, but you pick up whatever task you could do to make a difference, and you start being in charge. And the more responsibility you have, then you start controlling. And yes, it happens in many like other language communities, but especially in Ruby, Ruby is born in this country, and the main difference is in Ruby, core development team, they are taking initiative rather than following other countries' initiative. So I think, and as a matter of fact, a few Ruby cores, Takano-san and Sora, are actually core member of Ruby, but also are acting as a core member of Shinsai.info. So that's pretty much the only relation to Ruby. Okay. But next, here is the usage. There was over 12,000 reports, and in the first month, it had like almost like million page view with like 500,000 unique visitors. And one of the difference of the usage in like past deployment, like such as Haiti, and here in Japan is like in Haiti, like all the functionality was pretty much destroyed. So all the recovery effort had to come outside of the country. So it was more like used from external, like outsiders to figure out what's going on. Whereas in Japan, most access came from Sendai, the city had the impact itself. So it was more like used from the user who actually suffered. Okay, so now 4 months. So how is it doing? In terms of Shinsai info, when we started launch the site, the majority of the information about safety inquiry, just like people use Google Person Finder for, followed by information about available services, like where can I get the gas, where can I take a shower, or which store is open, and those. And the majority of the information was via Twitter, searching the certain hashtags. But now in July, there are still people who's looking for missing people, but that ratio decreased a lot, and now it's more like recruitment of new volunteers, followed by same again available services, and the number of report decreased because which kind of indicating like it's now going to be stable. And the one major difference is we still like get the Twitter information, but we don't show on the repo. Partly because nowadays Twitter hash tag related information is have more noise than the signal, and at the same time, now there are fragments of small like blog site or website which provide the information for specific part. And the problem is, like, as a user, you can't keep going to 5, 10 different sites to just get information. So we take like a whitelisted sites certain information through like some RSS or sometimes manually into our site. And also we kind of collaborate with other sites. One is Tasukei Japan, which is like volunteer information exchange site. Another is Sahana, which is another like crisis-related resource management site. And also some, that's where, sometimes we take input, but at the same time we expose the information using Ushahidi API. So one example is Japan Android user group created Shinsai Info, a mobile app, and I think the S3 had some visual mapping using our information. Okay, so you can see that it's moving from relief to recovery. This is an image I saw in UK news site about a month ago, and the left side is right after the earthquake, and that's like 3 months after. Same location, you can see same kanban there, right? And it almost like, oh, it's all recovered. Okay, so yeah, Japan's doing great, amazing, done, really. There's a number I would like you to remember, and probably just talk about it when some of you go back to your country. It's certified means it's still 7 million tons of debris out of 21 million total. It's been cleared up. Still so much left. So there's still certain area is totally cleared up, but there are certain areas which still left untouched. I've never been there, but like I spoke to Seki-san, who visited once, and he said like there are certain areas it's just same as it was. And another figure I also would like you to remember is, what's my time going? 8 minutes, okay. It's 5 years. What does this mean? This is 5 years for the last person to leave from temporary housing after Kobe earthquake happened in 1995. 5 years. And that figure is, before the follow is, after you lose your house, you first go to evacuation center and then move to like temporary housing. And this is a figure of a comparison of like a number in a evacuation center. And right after 1 week after the earthquake, you can, purple is Kobe, blue is Tohoku, and you can almost see like number is double. So this 5 years figure, we expect for this time's earthquake, it will be longer. Yeah, for some people, it will be very, very long battle. Now, what can we do? Seki-san, gives a lot of talk in many, many conferences. And this time, usually we recruit for the new members, like especially like developers. But I have the problem again. This is RubyKaigi, not PHP conference. I know like there's super hackers from all over the world, and I thought like, oh, probably one person might be thinking, this is a time to use my tool, like Ruby, like Ruby binding to PHP. This is a time to use Shinsayo. No. That's not a solution. I know one more person who can make the difference. He thinks, but that's wrong. You can't really merge Rails and PHP just to help Shinsai Info. That's not going to happen. And no, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you. One thing, as a hacker, one thing you could contribute is probably you join like Hack for Japan event. A Hack for Japan is a hackathon event, which first happened like I think 3 days after the earthquake in March. But their intention to make it like sustainable, continuous, keep doing. So they already did in March, May, and next one is coming in July. So some of them happening in next weekend. I know like most of visitors probably they're leaving in next few days, so you might not be able to do. But if you happen to stay, you could go, especially the one in July in Tono, Iwate Prefecture. Seki-san is going to go. So if you are interested, if you contact me, I'll pass the names to Hal. So like you probably could go together. And one of the example, the kind of popular one is like creating Geiger counter to measure the radioactive. That's as a like hacker, it's kind of fun project. But I spoke to Google Japan's Mr. Takuya Oikawa, who is in charge of this organization. And by the way, Hao is also the member of the Hacker for Japan. And he said it would be a long way for our hacks to be truly useful to the people at the disaster-affected area, but continuing is more important. So the point is, at this moment, the demand from disaster side is not even that level of using our service. It's really in lack of the basic need. People don't have like laptop, or people don't know how to like use blog or something like that. So it's very basic level. But more important thing is we continue, like we start now and we continue. So by the time the infrastructure of the disaster affected area goes up, then we believe there is a time that they're going to need our service. So that continuing, I think it's very important. And also another thing is, I said like 35%, so there's still other 60% of debris left. So you could actually go for like volunteer. And in Shinsai Info, there's tons of information. Unfortunately, all the information is in Japanese. So if you are from overseas and you don't really understand Japanese, but you want to help, our site unfortunately don't really help much. But I did a bit of search on Facebook, and there are a few like Facebook fan page where they try to send foreigners to the disaster affected site. There one like actively announcing, but if you contact, they might respond. And but I think if you are visiting overseas, or even like you are the foreign resident living in Japan, or even Japanese people, one single most effective thing you could do rather than hacking is just visit Tohoku. This is a place, it's called Matsushima. Don't you think it's beautiful? Yes? Hi, arigatou gozaimasu. So Matsushima is one of the 3 most beautiful sceneries in Japan, followed by, well, other 2 is like Hiroshima and Kyoto. Everybody goes to Kyoto, maybe some people goes to Hiroshima. From Hiroshima is a nice place, but now probably going to Matsushima will help the area to stimulate the economy, as well as like if you tell your friend like, oh, I went to Kyoto, everybody knows about Kyoto, but if you say, oh, I went to Tohoku, where is that? That triggers a conversation about the earthquake. And it's very important, if regardless if you're visiting or not, like you understand like some sort of, you can speak and you can communicate in English is the most single asset right now to spread what happens in Japan. And in RubyKaigi, there's translators, which is translating now. They are called superstars. And I think you guys are superstars if you talk about, what's happening in Japan to just friends, just friendly conversation. That helps a lot at this moment. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, 井上さん。それでは昼休みに入ります。